What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another Sailing Doodles podcast. Haven't done one of the news shows in a while, but I'll be working on that soon. I really need to find like a writer and an editor for that because, you know, I have to edit 2 main videos a week for Sailing Doodles, and then I'm trying to get into some shorts, and then I've got my Glamping Doodles channel. Please check that out, and then a few other irons in the fire. I got like 3 videos, so then I got to research and edit and all that for the news show. I don't know, I need to find somebody to handle that for me, and then I can just read it and then have them edit it and do all that. But let me get on to the cheers to you. Let me get on to the topic of today's show. This podcast is, you know, dating life as a cruiser and a sailor, and also as a YouTuber. Obviously, that's a little pertinent now with the change in my dating status, being single now. It's a little different for me, I guess, because of the YouTube stuff, which makes it maybe easier and harder. You know, it has its own challenges. I'll kind of get into that, but I want to talk about some of the demographics of people that are sailing right now and how that affects, you know, if people are coupled up or they're single and all that. So it's changed a lot over the last few years. So the age distribution right now, young cruisers, so under 35, is about 15%. Middle-aged cruisers, like 36 to 35, is 35%. Older cruisers, 56 plus, is about 50%. And I'd say that's probably, in my experience, so a lot of this stuff I've researched online, by the way, and a lot of it's ChatGPT looking it up, so you know, take that with a grain of salt. He could be wrong. But it is a tool I'm using. Say hello to Cougar. Merlin's out on a walk with Mackenzie right now. Oh, how you doing, buddy? Mm-hmm. You're a sweet boy. Yes, you are. All right. And then so onto the family structure. You know, it's couples, about 50%. It makes sense. I mean, most of the cruisers I see are couples. Out there, but that also includes families, 20%. So it's couples with kids. So couples together, it makes up about 70% of the total. And then solo travelers, 20%, and groups of friends, 10%. You've seen the trend go up quite a bit. Singles. In 2010, it was only 8% of cruisers were solo, and now you're just over 20%. So that has changed a lot in the last few years. And part of the reason for that is, you know, the rise of remote work and digital nomads. You know, it makes it a lot easier to go out and cruise and all that. So before, that's, you know, it makes sense, right? So you're getting more younger people and solo people traveling. And so if you look at the age of cruisers over time, so the average age, you know, in 2010 was 58 years old, and that's dropped to now 46. So your average age is 46, which, I don't know, that seems a little bit young to me, but I guess it is. But then if you just look at the number of younger cruisers under 40, it went from 10% in 2010 to now it's 35%. So it's gone up 25% in the last 15 years. And, you know, so it's brought down the average age a good almost 10 years or a little over 10 years. And so, you know, part of the reason for that, like I mentioned before, was digital nomad, plus social acceptance and community growth. There's been you know, a lot more online communities, social media groups, and meetups have, you know, reduced the isolation and foster connections among solo cruisers. Increased visibility of solo cruising through YouTube, blogs, and social media has kind of normalized it and encouraged solo cruising. Also, there's been technological advancements, improved navigation technology, weather forecasting, reliability communication, Starlink now, that's what we're doing right now. Safety systems have made solo cruising safer and more manageable. The boats have definitely gotten a lot easier to sail over the years. So this boat right now is 30 some odd years old. I can single hand it, but it's not easy. You know, but the you get a brand new Beneteau 40. I mean, you can easily single hand that thing, no problem. Let's see, your lifestyle and personal freedom. I mean, you've kind of seen a change in, you know, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, all that. They're not doing the typical American dream. You know, they're not getting the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids. You know, they're waiting till longer in life, and they're going out and doing more exploring. They're prioritizing individual growth and adventure over the old stuff. solo cruising offers flexibility of itinerary and all that. So the changing demographic pattern, higher rates of individuals delaying marriage, divorce, like I just said, and then older cruisers, particularly those divorced widows, who are discovering solo cruising as an empowering and fulfilling way to navigate major life changes. So you get divorced, you make a midlife crisis, screw it, I'm buying a boat and going sailing. It's much more affordable now. I mean, like I was just the other day, I've seen several younger cruiser couples just yesterday, but they were all in very old, very small boats. I mean, like 30-foot sailboats, and I'm sure it's a pretty Spartan life on there, but they still had Starlink on the boat, so they were still in touch. And if you do the right weather, you don't need a whole lot. So you can buy a $10,000-$15,000 boat and go cruising. And there you go. Let's see, and of course, influence of inspirational stories. So a lot of success stories come out on social media and YouTube, and people say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. That's basically how I got into it. There are some challenges coming with solo cruising. You know, you spend a lot of time at sea, and you know, you get limited social circles. There's only the people that are out here sailing. It's not like you go to the nightclub or the bar, or even if you get on Tinder or something like that, there's only a few hundred people around you instead of 10,000 or 100,000 or millions. If you live in LA, there's millions of people on Tinder just swiping away or whatever, I don't know. And then, but here in the Bahamas, I mean, you know, very limited. The transitional nature of relationships, it attracts adventurous, mobile people who often move quickly, making sustained connections harder. I definitely agree with that. 100%, that makes it hard. Age and demographic gaps. Like I said, there are a lot more cruisers that are younger now, but it's still 50% of all cruisers are over the age of 55. So you kind of have a limited pool. Number one, you have a limited pool because they're all just, you only have the other sailing cruisers and maybe some people on vacation or have a house here or something like that. But how many of them are actually single? It's not very many. And so it makes it, it's not easy. And then you get the older demographics. Lifestyle compatibility. It is hard to find a person who shares a passion for sailing in the ocean and the nomadic life. Tell me about it. That's, I have people all the time say, yeah, I can come crew with you for a week or whatever. I'm like, no. I need somebody who wants to come crew for the whole season because, I have a show to make here, and I got, I guess I could bring a friend or two down for a week at a time, but it's a hassle, like trying to coordinate what airport to pick them up to and all that. And then there's the practical constraints of smaller spaces, limited privacy. You have to be able to live well with in a small space with other people. To go over some of the other demographics here, you can see the age distribution is quite big. So you only have about 20% solo travelers, 70% couples, 10% miscellaneous friends, whatever. And then there's also the gender gap. I mean, it has been narrowing quite a bit, but 60% of the cruisers out there are male and 40% female. So, you have a lot less singles to choose from, and the demographic, if you're a girl, hey, if you're a single lady and you want to go cruising and all that, I mean, you can take any pick you want. There's a ton of guys that would love to have you on their boat. And actually, you do have to be careful, especially if you're a single lady. So there are a bunch of websites that do, crew finders and crew seekers and all that, I think are some of the websites. And there's a bunch of Facebook groups and all that. But anytime I ever see, because I've been on there in the past looking for crew and all that, but anytime I see a single lady posting on there, there's always immediately a couple other women will comment on their post being like, hey, be careful, make sure you know the deal going in, because you don't want to show up to somebody's boat and then they're a total sleazeball or weird or making you feel uncomfortable or putting you in a bad spot. So ladies, you definitely have to be careful, but if you can vet the person well and all that, I mean, you can come out and go cruising, no problem at all. One interesting thing I saw with nationality is it's 50% North American, that's US and Canada. There's a lot of Canadians down here in the Bahamas. And then 30% Europe, 10% Australian, 10% other, 10% Australia, New Zealand, 10% other. I did make a mistake once. I was 21 or 22. I was in a bar, and I was working at a bar while I was in college. And this one guy came up, he was from New Zealand. I was like, where are you from? Are you from Australia? He's like, no, I'm from New Zealand. I'm like, oh, it's the same thing. And he looked at me, he was about to beat my butt because he was like, it is not the same thing. I didn't know how big their rivalry was. I guess that'd be like the same thing if like somebody said, Americans, we don't really care. If like somebody says, oh, are you Canadian? I'm like, oh, I'm American. He's like, no, American. Oh, they're like the same thing. I'm like, whatever. I'm not, but like Canadians, they get pissed if you call her, if they don't, I don't know. Anyway, I think it's all, anyway, I'm not getting into politics. I think it's all funny. I laugh at all this crap. And then one interesting statistic I saw is that like 75% of those out sailing and cruising are college graduates. I didn't know it. I didn't think it'd be that high. But I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. A lot of these people are probably, half the people out there are, relatively, it says 45% are retired or semi-retired, so I guess if you're retired and you have enough money to buy a boat and go sailing around, you probably did pretty well with your career, so probably have a degree, something like that. 35% of the people out there sailing are remote workers, and that's a big increase over the last few years. So in 2010, only 5% of the cruisers were remote workers, which makes sense. I mean, like in 2010, I started sailing and cruising in 2016. It was doable for remote then, but like in the Bahamas especially, like the phone service wasn't good enough to like hotspot or do any work on, so you had to go find Wi-Fi on land somewhere if you wanted to work. And it was doable, it was just a pain in the butt. And that's what we did. So I had to go find a cafe or a bar and go post up there for a few hours while we upload a video. And we were only uploading in 720p at the time because it was so hard to get internet that was fast enough. So in 2010, I don't even know how the 5% did remote work. They, I don't know, maybe had to mail in their stuff. But if you look at it now, I mean, in 2024, 35% of the cruisers are remote workers. I guess technically I'm a remote worker. I mean, it's just now with Starlink and all that, it makes it so much easier. I know, like I have several friends that they work for government agencies. Like I know one that does payroll for like Miami-Dade County. And he actually doesn't work for Miami-Dade. He works for a consulting company, and so, but he's technically has to be in the United States because it's a government contract. I don't know, whatever. So it's kind of a weird thing. I guess you can get around it with VPNs these days, but if they catch you, it's kind of hard. And so here's another graph. I think I mentioned it before, but so the percent, oh no, I haven't. I think it's different now. So the percentage of single male versus female cruisers over time. So if you look at 2010, it was 2% and 6%, and so 6% male, 2% female single of the total cruisers. And if you look at it now, I mean, female now is 7%, male is 14%. So, the numbers are increasing, and there's definitely more of a pool to look through, but it's still pretty skewed against the male there. But so for me personally, I had over the past, I've been doing this YouTube for almost 9 years now. It'll be 9 years in November. And over that time, I've really only had 3 serious girlfriends. Maybe 4, but not, Megan and I, who started with me for the first, I think she was with me for the first 8 or 9 months. We tried dating, but we were never really a good couple. And so pretty early on, we decided just to kind of hang out and cruise and do whatever. We were never really that serious. And then after that would have been Laura, who I met through a mutual friend. Laura happened to be in the Virgin Islands at the same time I was in the Virgin Islands. I think met her when Megan was still on board for the first time. And so we talked a little bit, and then we kept in touch. And then when I got the boat to sail over to Thailand in it, from Canada, I somehow convinced her to come along with me, and we dated for like 2 years or so. And then after that, I guess, so that's 1, and then I guess there has been 4. So Taylor and I dated for about a year. So I did meet her online through Instagram. I was just looking for somebody to come cruise with me, and I said, hey, I found her, like, she had a very small YouTube channel at the time, and I found her. I said, hey, you want to come sailing? So she did. So after that with Stephanie, I met her in a bar in Thailand. So it was still during kind of lockdown in Thailand during COVID. And I don't know, there was only one bar open in the island, and there was only like 8 people in the bar, including her, and we started talking, and then, she was sailing with me the next day. And then we were together for a couple years. And then most recently, Amanda, who I've known since before Sailing Doodles. Amanda sailed with us for a while on season 1, but we weren't dating. I knew Amanda from a mutual friend before. Actually, no, we met. That's right. We met at a concert like the summer before I started Sailing Doodles. So anyway, we just kept in touch. So, there are dating websites out there for sailing and cruising. I've not really used them or had any success with them. But that's the hard thing when especially when your relationship is totally public, like mine is. So I'm down here. It's hard enough dating if you are, just I'm from Dallas, right? It's hard enough just to find somebody that you're compatible with to date while you're in Dallas, right? Because you can join a kickball league, you can go to happy hour, you can do whatever and meet people, and there you go. But you have millions of potential possibilities. When you're down here cruising, I don't know how many people are in Marsh Harbor right now that are single females, age appropriate, that are compatible or whatever. There might be 2, and then how am I going to run into them at the same? It's just there's not a whole big opportunity. And then and that's Marsh Harbor. Once you get further away into some of the more isolated places, it's just not going to happen. But this is my job and my career, and so it's not like, especially right now, I don't have any footage saved up. So the videos that I'm editing and coming out, the video I'm editing right now was filmed on March 7th, which is 3 days ago. So that video will be out Thursday. It'll be sooner for patrons and Navy members. If you want to join up, thank you. So I have to keep out here and keep making content. So I do have Mackenzie with me right now, but it's just a crew. It's not that kind of relationship. And we're not looking to do anything like that. So it is hard to do that. And then plus, so then you can use dating apps or whatever, but how are you gonna have a first date with somebody? You'd be like, hey, I'll fly you down to my boat for our first date. She doesn't know me, doesn't know how that works. So it's not really easy. But it's the life I choose, and I like to do this. So it is what it is. If I sound like I'm complaining, I'm sorry. I don't mean to complain. I'm just telling you the facts on how the reality is of the situation of being down here and doing that. And so, I'm planning to be here until June-ish. I'd like to be back up in the Chesapeake area with the boat and park it in June, and then take some time off of the boat. So then I get off my boat, and I generally live on my RV. Other than that, I don't have a home. I don't have an apartment. I don't have a house. I have a storage unit, and I have an RV. So when I'm not on the boat, I live in my RV, which is still very nomadic, and I film for my Glamping Doodles channel. So I'm never in one place more than about a week then. So, it's complicated, and it's hard to do. But I'm not saying, trying to say like I'm complaining. I very much enjoy the lifestyle I have. I'm just giving you the hardships of it as I understand them. And then, other people, I guess you'd say I have an advantage over a lot of other single guys out there cruising, is that, I do have the YouTube show, and I do have, I don't know, I always call myself an F-list celebrity, not even close to a B-list. I'm an F-list. I have 700,000 followers, and there's no way, anyway. But at least I have that. So there's a little popularity with that, and a little notoriety that maybe comes with that. It makes it a little bit easier, and to get some, a potential date or something like that. Whereas, you're just on your own boat and just digital nomading or retired or whatever, it's a lot harder to find people that fit your demographic. And then what are you gonna do? Convince them to come down? I don't know. How are you gonna meet them online and then your first date? So that's the hard part. But anyway, let's see. I had another point. I have known, so in the Caribbean and the Bahamas is one thing. So, at least you're generally around a lot of it's a pretty tight-knit group of sailing and cruising. Like, we're going to happy hour after this. So there's a happy hour. We're in a marina right now because there's a heavy windstorm coming in tonight and tomorrow. And the problem is it clocks around from out of the south at like 30 knots to out of the north at 30 knots. So there's no good anchorage that's protect you from all of that. So we went ahead and got a marina for a couple nights. There every day at 5 o'clock there is a happy hour of all the cruisers that are on boats here on the marina, and we went to the one yesterday. There's probably 20 people there. I would say the average age was in the 50s, But I think that's down from what it was 10 years ago. It would have been in the 60s. You know what I mean? Mackenzie was definitely the youngest person there. She's 27 and I'm 47. I was probably, if I wasn't the second youngest, it was damn close. I'm pretty sure I was. There might have been some kids there. I don't remember. There might have been a kid or two for some cruisers. But yeah. So at least when you're in the Caribbean and the Bahamas, there's enough other boats around where you can have like a cruising community and kind of people to hang out with in a social network that you can, there's a happy hour almost every day somewhere. There's somebody organizing beach yoga every day. There's, some kind of church service every Sunday. Then there's somebody playing guitar or whatever on the beach or having a bonfire. There's always something like that, so you can stay pretty busy. Whereas I remember I was in the South Pacific and we were in Vanuatu and we met a guy this was 7-8 years ago, and he had been single on his own cruising for a long time, and he was a bit off. I hope he doesn't watch this. I don't think he does, but he was a bit off. His social understanding and like stuff was, he was a really nice guy, really sweet guy, but he just didn't really know how to talk to people anymore appropriately, in my opinion. Maybe he was always like that, but it was a bit off. So that's the thing, is like, if you are going to solo sail and solo cruise, I would recommend being in an area with lots of people. Anywhere in the Bahamas can be pretty sparse, but definitely down in the Caribbean, like St. Martin, some of the more popular, the U.S. Virgin Islands, where there's a lot of people in and out, and you can have a social network that you can do that with. I would recommend that. I would highly recommend against, if you're solo cruising, going off to the more far-flung places where there's less people around, because you don't have that social network and it can affect you negatively. I mean, we're social animals. I mean, we're pack animals, right? I mean, if you spend enough time solo, it's bad for your health. I mean, I think they've even proven there's correlation between having less friends to longevity. So, my advice would be to engage in activities, use technology, leverage technology to, online platforms. Remain flexible. You got to keep an open mind about your cruising area and schedules, and seasonal cruising spots, like I said, and clearly communicate lifestyle and expectations. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and if you'd like to get early access to our videos and everything, join the Sailing Doodles Navy. There's a link down below. They get early access to videos and behind the scenes footage and all that other stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.